Morning Express, and we are having Political Point this day, where we take a look at some of the political stories that have made headlines. And of course, the political future of the country is a big one, and various facets come to mind: the economy, the Building Bridges initiative is a hard one to ignore, and of course the ongoing happenings in the Jubilee party and possible political realignments as people station themselves, politicians station themselves and try to position themselves correctly for better political future post-2022. And we are having in studio Sam Atandi, who's the Member of Parliament Alego Songa, as well as James Gakuya, who's the Member of Parliament Embakasi North, and PMD Wanjuguna, also known as Waruth, who is a political analyst. Thank you for staying with us. Now, as we take a look at a possible future, the economy is obviously an issue that is very close to heart. And the Deputy President seems to have tapped into that, and this is what has formed the narrative. The hustler nation versus the dynasty is basically about economic empowerment, and particularly for young people who are hungry for change. Now, when it comes to this, it forms, it tugs to the heartstrings, especially when we have those slogans and those words that are used as opposed to the jargon that you would typically hear from economists. Now, I'll start with you, Honorable Gakuya. When you take a critical look at the hustler movement, do you think this is a setup that has the right ideas? Do you think that it has comprehensively been put out so that when someone thinks of the hustler movement, they know exactly what the Deputy President is promising, particularly for young people?
My take on this is that this country has been promising creation of job all along. And if you go to the genesis of Jubilee government, the major point was giving this country a double-digit economy and creation of jobs. Today, up to where we are, you realize that majority of youth are still getting out of colleges, universities, and schools, and they are just getting into this particular field of empty jobs. It tells you that actually there is a gap somewhere, because at least the government is reluctant somewhere in terms of creating rooms for these jobs. And at where we are, it's unfortunate to forget that actually this society is still here in this country, and this society is living here. The hustler narrative, let me say, try to address the way of starting bottom up.
Yes.
And I believe that if we empower Mama Boga, if we empower these fellows who depends on the piki-piki, who depends on the matatus, who depends on these other Juakari jobs, once you empower them and then you create looms on how they can be able to repay back to the basket, together we can be able to build economy, all of us. And therefore you can also enhance more and more pockets of bringing to the basket.
Right.
My case is that that narrative is quite a good narrative if it can be used on the right way and if the mechanism can be set, because if we empower those who have not and those who are trying to build themselves down there, those who have no jobs, because I can tell you we have degree people, we have diploma people, we have various number of people who are well skilled, but they are out there, they are hawking outside there.
Yes.
But even though you can empower them at whatever position they are, I believe they will be capable of also assisting the country to grow.
Okay, Mr. Njuguna, when you look at the hustler movement, there's that, all that Honorable Gakuya has actually explained. But at the same time, when you're talking about ideologies, you have to ask how is this going to be achieved and how is this different? So when you hear all this talk and the popularity that it's gaining and momentum that it's gaining, do you think when the young people actually sit down and interrogate this narrative that it actually offers solutions that would work?
Thank you. Again, we will have to go to the reality of the day.
Yes.
Because we cannot manage tomorrow unless we know today. Currently, Madam, we have got 14 million people in the informal sector. The informal sector is what usually we call juakari. And juakari includes also farmers in the village. It includes cane farmers. It includes me, the mama down there who have got one cow and he's selling milk, one bottle. The informal sector is so huge and it's also dependent. In fact, every family in Kenya have got an average of 5 members. Out of those 5 members depend on 14 million people. The informal sector employs 9 people when the natural economy, when the formal economy is employing 1 person.
Right.
The reality is like when you go to Grogan, behind Indian shops are the mechanics.
Yes.
And all the cars are there. They are making their daily living there. The informal sector makes this country survive. It contributes 40% of gross domestic product.
Right.
22% of every 100 shilling owned today is going, every 100 shillings, the informal sector is going to contribute 22 shillings. It is the major entry for the university graduates, in the major entry for Standard 7 dropouts, it's the major entry for technical schools, and therefore it occupies key focus for this country.
Right.
In fact, today I have filed in Parliament, last week I filed in Parliament under Article 119 of the Constitution. The government involvement and the budgetary process must now, I argued that the politicians must come out of churches. They also must come out of funerals. Let them go to Parliament.
Yes.
What would they do in Parliament?
Indeed.
If they can pass that the government borrows 1 trillion to build roads, why can't they pass 1 trillion go to informal sector? Why can't they go to Parliament and stop every foreigner coming to sell clothes in this country? Why have they not stopped tomatoes coming from Tanzania? Why have they not stopped eggs coming from Uganda? What are they doing in Parliament to promote the informal sector?
Okay.
Stop all imports. That can be done in this country. Make this country go.
Yes.
Now, the Somalis, everybody else, is going to villages, selling other pants everywhere. Because our sector, the informal sector, have been opened to East Africa. Try to do that in Tanzania. Last time, we had chickens banned. We had cows actioned by the president of Tanzania.
Yes.
What is happening in Kenya? What are the members of parliament, what are they doing?
Yeah,
This is what I'm saying.
You're raising very good points.
There is more they can do.
Yes, and therefore...
Whether Tanga or Kiwereweke, they have abdicated their responsibility.
Okay.
And it is not Uhuru Kenyatta that is accountable. It is them that have failed in their duties.
Okay, they have failed. Honorable Attorney,
totally have failed.
would you come in on this and tell us what you feel the hustler is all about?
What I think is that Kenya is not playing in its league. No, our peers are way much ahead of us.
Economically speaking,
we should not be where we are today. And countries such as South Korea and China, at some point we were at the same stage with them.
Yeah.
So the debate which is currently on the table about hustlers and whatever it is, basically hustlers is basically an incitement tool for politics. It has nothing to do with the it has nothing to do with the economy.
Yeah.
And if you want to address the economy of this country, then you must look at how to expand it. How do you expand the economy? You expand the economy, first of all, by creating a conducive environment for investors to come on board.
Yes, but when you listen to what the Deputy President and his brigade are always going on about, it's about empowering young people and making sure they have brighter economic futures. But how do you get the details you need in terms of a plan moving forward, what this would...
How are you going to empower them if you do not have, if the economy cannot support it? Because you have to... Economy must generate resources that in turn you use to empower the youth. And so can our economy afford the resources to fund? Because we cannot afford, because the economy continues to thin. Each and every day the economy is contracting.
Right.
That is one. Two, then there's this issue which we are failing to address, which the hustler people are not addressing.
Yes.
But this economy there's a lot of leakages, you know, and corruption remains one of our biggest anathemas.
Yeah.
So if corruption remains one of our biggest anathema, and that the economy is losing, we're losing a lot of resources through corruption, what is the hustler and people saying about that? Because you need to collect these resources and use them to expand the economy. So I think the solution which is contained, because I'm a pro-BBI, and I think that BBI is actually outlining the solutions for the youth, the solutions for everybody, because first we are going to address the expansion of the economy.
Right.
And we are going to ensure that continuous conflict in this country each and every 5 years
is put to an end.
Is something that is affecting the expansion of the economy.
Okay, yeah, as basically what I'm getting from all three of you is that you do not really see a solid plan in terms of what exactly is going to be done from that. So then we get a call, a rallying and for the people, and it's exciting, but then at the same time, details.
It is what I call incitement.
Okay.
You know, what hustlers are doing, let me just go on.
Okay, let him finish.
What hustlers are doing, they're basically inciting jobless Kenyans to allow them to go into office. But they're not telling them that when we go to the office, this is what we are going to do. Exactly. Just promising somebody that we are going to do this. What about if there are no resources? Look at the promises which were made by the Jubilee government. Have they met even 10%? They have not, because what they're not telling us that they don't have capacity to meet them because the economy cannot sort itself out. And that's what we are saying in BBI, that we are the constitutional architecture of this country. It's what needs to be tampered with a bit to allow the economy to expand, to allow investors to have a conducive environment to do their thing, and to increase our cake. Because once we increase our cake, I want anybody who wants to run for president to tell me how he's going to increase the cake, because that is where the problem is. If we increase the cake, then I think we are on the right road. But just promising me that you'll buy me new shoes next week is not really the solution that I need.
Right. Now, Mr. Njuguna, you seem to think there is a solid plan. Please elaborate.
Let me tell you something. Raila and Ruto are going to give this country nothing in 2022 without BBI. Absolutely, you cannot promise anything outside the current constitution, and Ruto alluded to that when he said he's going to give every constituency 100 million shillings. Okay. Do you know what is in the BBI? You read the report of I am a contributor in BBI.
Yes.
I'm number 57, page 167. And I am telling you, if you read what were the views of the youth, the views of the employed, what did they resort to? They offered solutions, and the BBI team consolidated that solutions into what is proposed, Article 11A. Article 11A is a result of the opinion of the jobless. What do they say? We have no employment. What do they say? We have no access to capital. What do they say? The county government and the government is not giving 30% that was approved last time. What did they say? There is discrimination and corruption. What came after is the 11A, which captured all sectors of the economy. For example, I come from coffee and tea zone. Coffee is within agriculture. Agriculture is captured within 11A. At the report...
Before we delve too deep into the BBI, in the first round, I would like to understand when this hustler narratives, we are like this because they have been in power for too long, we are like this because we have not been empowered, and therefore, if we take power, this is going to happen. My question is how? What do you understand from all the rallies, all the talk, when you hear what the Deputy President is, what do you get from it as a plan, a solid plan that you can say?
Number one, it's different monkeys in the same forest.
Okay.
They have nothing to offer. And no one in his right mind would trust a politician. Absolutely none. What the public should offer and should cry for is like the Bible. What protects a person is Bibilia. There has to be a constitution that guarantees what is my right. They have got their right as members of parliament. They have got the right to increase their salaries. They have got the right to have 7 million shillings for their own cars. But then you look at the creation of what is called incubation centers. incubation centers is where you look at what is in Kandara. We have got avocados. We have got what is called, we have got several products in Kandara where they can be translated into factories so that we have business incubation center. At least we can have a major factory for avocados. We can have major factory for what we produce. And then the BBI has included funding section.
Oh, it's okay, it's okay. Let me bring in Honorable Gakuya because he's sitting patiently to my right. I'd like to know from you, when you listen to these, the talk of the tanga-tanga and, you know, all these hustler narratives, what do you see as a solution, you, as opposed to the BBI?
My take on this is that even though the BBI promises heaven, this may not be realized because Constitution is just a document like any other. We have the current document, which does not obstruct anybody to implement whatever good idea that he may wish today, because there's no barrier in our current Constitution. And I don't see anything new which is propelling in a new angle or in a new idea. Because one, you are telling the youth, you give them 4 years a break for repaying their help.
Yes.
You are telling the youth that anybody who is willing to get into entrepreneurship, you are going to have a break of 7 good years.
Tax break.
Tax holiday. To me, that is not the desire by the youth. The youth require, because one, this youth has just come from the school. This school has no single capital in his pocket. How is he going to get to become an entrepreneurship? Have you made a way or a route on how you nurture this fellow to allow him to give him an environment that he will be able to reach that particular point? I am saying that the gap here is look for a way on how every financial year you have a kitty. That kitty should be a kitty which has no bureaucracies that they are today. Because you cannot tell a youth, go to the Equity Bank, borrow, so that you can do this particular project. Because this fellow has no collateral. Where is he going to get the collateral from? The way to go to do is to look for a kitty. This kitty is what we call startup kitty. A startup kitty will empower these youths. And I believe this youth will be able even to enjoy that percent jobs that are being enshrined. Because even though you give this fellow that job, how is going to get that to do that particular job and complete? It is not possible using the current bureaucracy. So one is to look for a kitty that gets the barriers of bureaucracy, where this particular youth can be able to enjoy a direct access of that money. Then he can be able to get at least 50% of that particular contract. Then he repays back after doing that particular job. That way, you empower this fellow. But telling him that you give me a tax holiday, how is he going to get to that particular entrepreneurship in the first place? Yes. Even though you give this fellow 4 good years of break or hell break, does that mean that this fellow is not going to pay that? Are you giving a guarantee of employment for that fellow within that 4 years?
Tandy, you would like to react to that?
Yeah. Let me break it down. I think among the panelists, I'm the one who left school recently. And I want to tell you that I graduated 10 years ago.
Okay.
And immediately I graduated, I was employed.
Yes.
And I started earning a little salary. And immediately I began earning my salary. Help was on my case.
Yes.
I began to pay help loan immediately. And I had my other siblings that I was supposed to take care of them and pay for them school fees. It became a very difficult process.
Indeed.
And I think it really dragged us. And I think my experience is similar to the experience of many other youths across the country. And, you know, where I disagree with the hustler movement is that they do I see them every day doing what is called empowerment meetings, where they give handouts to various groups of border. You know, basically a deputy president is basically resorting to giving his own...
So you feel it's not sustainable?
His own money as a tool for empowering the youth, when he's actually supposed to institute mechanisms in the law or by government that is sustainable, you know. So this is really the issue. And the second issue is that, another way to break it down for you is that I look at Baringo. Recently there was this debate in Baringo,
right,
where people are saying that, you know, Baringo is a county that has so many problems. yet they are the first people to reject BBI. And I think the MP for Rongai is one that was being condemned on Twitter, on social media for raising that issue. And it's a typical example which we really need to borrow.
Right.
This is the county of the former president. He was the president for over 24 years. And that is his county, and that is one of the counties that is really below, in terms of poverty. Poverty levels are very high. So what does that show us about the architecture of our constitution? It is showing us that, one, even if you're the president of Kenya today, I'm the president of Kenya today, if there's no constitutional framework that guarantees that everybody, even my villagers, will get a right from the government, they will never get it.
Absolutely.
And that is why, for us, we really want to die with the constitutional reforms, which will ensure that even if I'm not our people, we are not part of government, we still guaranteed our resources and strength from the government. But more fundamental is that the Asla people are not telling us how they are going to re-engineer the economy.
Okay.
Because re-engineering the economy is the problem. How do we ensure that our economy is attractive for investors? How are people going to, how will we attract capital? How is the Asla people going to attract capital? Because we need, our economy needs to attract capital. And attracting capital requires peace, requires political stability, requires a constitutional framework where investors are aware and they are sure that once they invest their resources in Kenya, the returns will be there.
Yes.
Because, so these are the conversions which are bigger. And my Professor Nyong'o said that we are trying to solve a bigger problem with a smaller solution.
Okay.
The issues we have about the future of Kenya are so big, they are so diverse, and the millions of jobless youth cannot be taken care of by tokens from government.
Okay.
Even if you are going to put 100 million per constituency to fund youth programs, that will not be enough because there are more than 20 million youth that are jobless, actually 40 million. And each and every year, we are releasing youth into the job market from various colleges and technical institutions. So I think we need to think bigger, and I think the Asla people are short of the ideas.
Okay.
They are basically engaged in incitement, which is aimed at winning elections and then continuing corruption, because the Hasla people are lords of corruption. They are not telling us where they are getting the resources to personally empower the youth, and they are, we know them. They are even condemning. They are not even condemning corruption. Okay. So Kenyans need to look at these people in who they are and allow Kenyans to engage in a constitutional framework that is going to suit everybody.
Now, here's a clip of the kind of engagement that's ongoing, because there are two sides that are pulling from each other, but they do belong. Seemingly, they are Siamese twins trying to pull from each other. Now, the Deputy President has said he will not resign from government, but at the same time, there are questions now about his role in ensuring that things are better. He has said that he will make peace with the President after he is done with the whole BBI issue and after the referendum. But the President has come out guns blazing and said, you need to resign if you are not in agreement with how the government is going towards bettering the country and working out its plan. So let's take a look at that clip and continue the debate.
Unakuja unasema kwa mdomo moja serikali ni mbaya, alafu kwa mdomo mwingine ati tumefanya kama serikali. Kwani serikali ni ngapi? Mnajua serikali ngapi Kenya hii? Ni moja ama ni mbili? Si ni moja? Si ni moja? Kama unataka uzuri wake, kae naye. Kama unataja ubaya wake, toka uache wale wengine waendelee.
And I will continue to work as Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya because that is my place in the Constitution.
Take a look at the details of the kind of leadership that both the principals have given to Kenyans. We'll start off with the president, who has the BBI initiative, and this has policies, it has laws and constitutional changes that promise to make things better. At the same time, we have the deputy president, who is gaining support among the electorate on what he is terming basically his opposition to the BBI initiative, and at the same time, of course, what he's saying is a solution to the problems of young people. Now, when we look at the deputy president, it's a very interesting position that he is in, because he is part of the government and he has worked with the president towards, of course, economic empowerment. So when you look at his track record to date, what do you think he has achieved, Honorable Gakuya, and does he have the moral authority then to point fingers at government?
Let me say that the leadership of the deputy president, I would say, I would just go to his background. And his background is totally encouraging background that he's a fellow who grown from very peasant way. And that kind of experience actually is an experience where he can be able also to guide the rest of the of those who have not, or those kind of hustler team, and encouraging them to join in this particular field of informal sector. Actually, to me, is a good way forward, because it is very important to consider that these people, when they are idle there, they are building no single nation when they are idle. But if you can look for a mechanism how those well-established groups can be at least empowered, those groups can be able to get something to their on their table, and at the same time they will just pay something as a tax to the tax basket. In this particular case, to me, is that in fact encouraging these groups is not only politics, because when he's empowering these what we call them picky teams, I believe these picky teams, we have seen them doing marvelous jobs, and when they are in a group, they contribute on a kit where you find them also able to buy a bus and move forward.
What's to stop him from doing all that within government, because he is, after all, the deputy president?
I can say that, in fact, there is nothing which has stopped him to be doing this. But I can tell you there is always a time to start something. Maybe at that particular area time, their main their strategy or their methodology to this, maybe he found at a time it's not working. And that is why he have now diverted from an angle where he thinks that he's now touching the real needy people. Yes. And I can tell you, you may be in a government, and when you may probably try to prepare your idea, is not getting an easy go through. And I would say, even though currently the deputy president is still the deputy president of this country, he does not enjoy fully the commitment he deserved by the law. Yeah.
Not just step aside.
One thing that
to come from Mr. Njuguna, why then not? You've clearly outlined why he might not be in line with what the government is doing, and therefore this is why what he's pushing for that initiative of his. Then, Mr. Njuguna, in your view, why wouldn't the president just step aside and go at it alone?
That is the question of the day.
Yes.
And the most difficult question. Again, it happened in 1966, where we had the best public mobilizer, Odinga. It happened in 2005, when again we had the best public mobilizer in the name of Raila Odinga. And in 1966, the Odinga borrowed money from Russia.
Right.
He got help from Russia against the president's will. That conflict was open when very many people died in Nyanza during the opening of the Russian hospital.
Right. Yes.
Let me just interject. Is he saying that that the late General Odinga borrowed money from Russia against the government of Kenya's endorsement?
No,
how did that work?
Please respond, Mr. Njuguna.
Yeah, well, it worked because, of course, funding was given through his initiative. Let me say he did not borrow, but through his initiative.
Okay, then let's take it to the current times.
The current times,
yes.
The deputy president has to be extremely careful under Article 148 of the Constitution. He is the principal assistant to the president. He cannot do anything outside Article 140. Well, it doesn't matter how meaningful it is. It will be a breach of the Constitution.
Yes. So to what does it do for him?
He's also a chair of cabinet subcommittees in a cabinet. And he doesn't deputize in the cabinet, but oversees some subcommittees. He is part and parcel of the government under delegated responsibility under Article 148. if you disagree with that delegated authority, BBI is part of what has been passed in cabinet, and he's a member of the cabinet. We have no record that he disagreed in cabinet. It is not, therefore, he may not be able to function at all as the deputy governor. If I were him, I would be even more powerful when resign. If I get out and resign, it becomes more better. You see, that is why I'm also saying, if you look at the BBI, it will make Ruto very powerful. Okay. You see, you have the president, you have got the deputy president, you have got the prime minister, and the deputy. He will be able. Ni kama buzi itagayanwa. Okay. I don't know why.
Honorable Standi, what's your reaction to those sentiments?
What I want to say is that the deputy president is technically outside government.
Yeah.
Technically.
He stopped supporting the president. Immediately the president decided to bring all Kenyans together, including the opposition, to work with. Because, you know, he's an ethnic chauvinist. He's not interested in the unity of Kenyans. He believes that the Jubilee government was a government of two tribes, the Kalenjins and the Kikuyus, and that is all that should have continued. So when the president decided to bring everybody on board, he became angry and he decided to begin to sabotage the president. And I want to tell you, this is a fact, and these are facts that are documented. When Jubilee government in the first 2013 was created, if you look at the nominees of cabinet nominees that came from the URP wing, it was basically from one ethnic community. So we are dealing with the deputy president who's an ethnic chauvinist, an ethnic demagogue who doesn't believe in the unity of Kenyans.
But when you listen to his talk, it's all about economic empowerment.
No, that is not true, because when he goes to Central Province, Kikuyu region, he talks about, when you gave us this government, me and President Kenyatta, you gave, it's trying to tell them that the government was basically his and Kenyatta, and that President Kenyatta should have not brought any other person on board. Okay. So the economy is, I told you, that's like economy is an incitement. But the truth of the matter is that this is a man who has left government, and it is not because of BBI, it is because of the fact that he does not believe in the politics of inclusivity. And two, he remains in government as deputy president because he loves government like this. Because he knows if he quits government, he will lose state security, he will lose the opportunities he has in government premises. You know, so this is really somebody that ideally Kenyans should unmask him for who he is. He is a person that actually the president should now remove all the gloves. The president should deny him resources so that because look at what happened the whole of last year since COVID. The COVID menace was in this country for all this time. There's no single day that the deputy president was involved in this conversation. The president did this thing alone, you know, as if he's just, and the deputy president only came out to do politics. So we are having a president who has lost support of his deputy and is relying on opposition people like us, you know, even to drive his agenda. It is us actually who are trying to help the government to be stable. So the president should actually wake up and actually get this man out of government so that he can, because he's not supporting him. I think that's my
But he has been emphatic, and he said he's in government to say. Honorable Gakuya, your reaction to what Honorable Standi said?
In fact, since we all belong here and we all live in this particular country, it is very true that, in fact, our constitution, actually, the current constitution we are in, actually gives a room for the presidency and his deputy. And therefore, the deputy president have every right to say, yes, any mechanism of bringing other teams on board is not anywhere in the constitution. And therefore, it is an issue if there was such a discussion, which was supposed to be all-inclusive discussion, including himself, because he's part of that particular government. But you find a scenario where things are being handled elsewhere in your absence, and you are being taken to be part of it. You cannot become part of that particular program if you are not part of it from the beginning, from the commencement. At this point, I would say, yes, the inclusivity is important, but where do we necessarily move to an election with the current order? Because we need to implement the current order of the Constitution after winning an election. That's why we move to an election. Otherwise, we are not supposed to move to an election. We need to agree on a table, take your portion, and we don't require to take unnecessary time for Kenyans to move for an election. Therefore, what I would say, the results of an election gives those who wins mandate to prepare the government. And those who are defeated, either they remain in a position, and they are position in parliament, and they have their position in Senate, and then that is where they are accommodated by the constitution, but not in any other way. So I can say the manner in which the president brought in the handshake, it was not inclusive, and his party, which is the Jubilee party, never sat as anywhere as an NDC to discuss or debate about it. It was just an individual, it was a two individuals agreement, the two individual handshake, but not a collective handshake.
Okay, and so as opposed to what Honorable Atandi is saying, you feel that the Deputy President is the one who was left out from the beginning.
He's not part of it, okay. And his job, at one point, it's like he's thrown out of the window.
Okay, yes. Honorable Atandi.
You cannot say you are left out when you are part of government. You sit in all government policy-making bodies. You sit in cabinet. You are basically part of government. You are on appointees in cabinet. They have not been fired. So I think the Deputy President, as I maintain, is an ethnic demagogue who is not interested in the inclusivity of the country.
Okay.
And therefore, he only wants to pursue politics of two tribes.
Yeah.
And that is all he's interested in.
Yes, and you have made that clear as your opinion. Now, Mr. Njuguna, your reaction to that?
Madam, let us first of all agree as a panel, there is no opposition in Kenya. It was abolished during the 2005 Constitution. What you have are members of parliament who vote for resolutions in parliament, who vote on party lines, but the unity of the House is guaranteed. That's why we've got the majority leader and the minority leader. The opposition now has been installed in the proposed bill. Number two is one thing that is extremely critical. I said that whatever is happening outside with the Deputy President and the Tanga movement is provided for in the Constitution. In the empowerment process, it is all over the country. In fact, the new Constitution is talking about a commission to manage the youth. Okay. That commission is supposed to establish centers for empowerment. You see what I mean? Then the members of Uhuru does not sit in parliament. Uhuru takes government bills. Every individual member of parliament have got power to institute anything they are talking outside. A single member. How come Ruth has filed a petition in Parliament under Article 119 of the Constitution asking Parliament to pass everything that is being... I have done it. I will forward to you a copy. I also forwarded it to the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. What can be passed now, not 2022? And what is provided for in the BBI that they can be able to pass when they are sitting down here? They cannot tell. When is the opposition have power in the House? There's nobody who has power. Every member of parliament has got power. If I have power to fire, suppose I was sitting in parliament, what would I not do? The other thing is that Ruto and his team, we have never had that direct confrontation with the government. And it has never happened. I cannot remember when it did happen. Let me tell you, madam, 2007, 2008, it was 41 against 2. Raila mobilized the whole country until Kikuyus were left. In fact, I say we stole the elections. Why? Do you know how we stole? Number one, Krigira came and said, no one has, you cannot tell who won the election. And the former boss of IBC said, I don't know. You remember in KICC, yes, when an aeroplane had to pick him up, he said he did not. We were fought so badly. Do you know it is coming again? It came again in March last year. Raila was sworn in. The most fortunate thing, and people have got reason to respect Uhuru, is that he did not confront at all. The public, thousands of people in Uhuru Park, this country, rivers of blood would have flowed in Nairobi. What is Uhuru thinking and Raila thinking? Can we stop such kind that happened in 2007, 2008? Why can't, that's why I'm saying, why, you see, let me tell you something.
To deal with such issues, yeah.
Politics have no value, including your death. Politics have no value, including shedding blood. You can be told by politicians you are not going to step in this building, and you are not going to go home by the politicians. Now, it is not about cost. It is avoiding the public confrontation. Okay. This country is made up of 47, 43, 45 tribes now, isn't it? They are clustered in 8 provinces. Raila proposed one thing and people dismissed, which was very wrong. Can we have a rotational president? Why? Because tribes are in one class. That was the best thing. If Raila can, anybody now should, it is the conception of the public that we are not in that higher seat. It makes them so comfortable. It is not about any value. It's... Yeah.
Reaction to that as we shift gears to political realignments.
I think you're going to make a lot of sense. What we need to do, and which is what Kenyans really need to do, is to have open discussion. And I like the fact that we are now having open discussions and about our future, about our past.
Yes.
Because our past is very ugly. And the truth of the matter is that there are some positions in this country that have not been occupied by certain tribes.
Indeed.
There are ethnic communities that have never been Minister for Finance, they've never been AG, they've never been Interior Minister. And you know, these are things that we really need to change. And I think I want to agree that rotational presidency could be a good idea. And that's why for us, I am totally sold to the debate which the president started in Vihiga, when he said that if it is about dynasty and hustlers, then we could also go the direction of saying there are 42 tribes in Kenya. Only 2 tribes have led.
Honorable Atandi,
why can't we have other tribes?
Would it be too much to hope for this country that we would look past tribe in terms of leadership, perhaps ideologies, perhaps someone's expertise, perhaps what they have in terms of their leadership qualities, in terms of president, and completely forget about, you know, this tribal talk?
I think we want to get away from the tribal talk, but you know, we are talking about the Constitution recognizes the regional balance as a critical aspect for public positions, because you are now required to balance, even if you are in an organization, you must balance tribes. I think the Constitution recognizes that there are tribes and that certain tribes have not benefited from
But perhaps that could be a preserve of the lower positions and parastatals and, you know, representation. But when it comes to the helm, does it have to be a thing that rotates? Because what if my tribe has nothing to offer? Not that it doesn't, but what if?
I think if we avoid confronting the tribe debate, then we are not confronting confronting the issues that we have.
We'll never solve Kenyans.
Because we will not, because Kenyans, you know, Kenyans want one of their own to be in a position. I think that's when they believe that they're actually in government. And it is also true that when one of your own is in position, this is experience, then you tend to empower your people more than the others.
Yeah.
So I think we need to confront this debate in a most sober way. And Kenyans identify themselves with tribe. So we are not going to assume, and especially DP should not tell us that because now he wants to become president, he wants to ignore the fact that this community has been in power for 24 years. That one now we need to forget. We cannot forget about
it and think
and
about it.
We must create a situation where a son of Arendile can become a president of the Republic. I think that's really what we want.
Yes.
That's what we want. So let us not, and when we are doing that, we must recognize that the opportunities in government have been grabbed by the ethnic communities that have been in power longer than the others.
Okay.
And that is why the debate is a bit juicy, you know, it's politically juicy, but you can't run away from it. Secondly, there's this narrative which I think my brother spoke about it.
Yes.
He was saying that, you know, the DP was not consulted when there was this handshake matter came up. You know, if he believes that he respects his boss and that he works with him, why must he put it as a gun that the president should have consulted him? He's the deputy president. He's the assistant of the president. The president is free to engage whoever he wants to engage for the purposes of driving the country. So why does he feel that he should have been consulted? Who is he? You know. in
Okay.
as
he was the man that stood by the president, and he has said this. He said this is a friendship.
And that is not also not true, because
a political one. Yeah.
That is not true, because they were all indictees at the ICC. He did not stand with the president because the president was charged.
They were
ICC.
in the hot soup
together.
So
why does he say he's true the president? The president, people who stood the president are the Kenyans who supported the president, voted for him, not him.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that needs to come out.
As we wind up, I'd like to get predictions from you, Honorable Gakuya. What political realignments do you foresee, especially with the rift happening in the Jubilee party? What do you foresee happening in the near future?
Yes, but before I get there, allow me to interject. Let me say this. At least, even though the head of state is the overall decision maker, there is no way he can ignore his deputy. The current constitutional order is not like the previous one, where the vice president were being appointed from a roadside.
Yes.
This is totally enshrined in the constitution, where the order is very clear. When the president is not there, this country cannot go back to an election. The deputy takes over to the rest of the term, and that is how different it is from the previous.
Yes.
So therefore, consultation and consulting your deputy is not a crime at all. And at the same time, your party, they have been brought to the positions by the party. That party had also every importance to be consulted when arriving to such magnitude decisions. And therefore, the party was never, NDC was never constituted, and therefore there was no anything to do with what we call a party direction.
Now, Honorable Gakuya, one would argue that at the moment, in the direction that the country was going, it called for swift intervention and some things to happen, and perhaps for the greater good. Then those consultative expectations were put to the side.
I would say, as a member, as a parliamentarian, I believe the NDC cannot sit without my invitation, and therefore there was no such one. Even PGs were never there. Okay. I believe also PG was also an important one. That we can use the elected umbrella to arrive to such kind of decisions, which was never there.
All right.
Coming to the issue
Your prediction.
with the intention of the new realignment, I would say there is a sign of what we call grad correction. And one, I would say, as much as the two panelists want to talk about the tribes, I would totally distance myself from that particular narrative.
Okay.
Because surely we cannot create 5 number of positions in the new order we are expecting the BBI and try to convince Kenyans that we have healed every other single tribe, and every other tribe is now comfortable. Because this country is made up of 42 number of tribes.
Yeah.
And the 5 positions cannot be able to be shared enough to all of the 42.
So what do you foresee then moving forward? Yeah.
If there was an issue to do with, is to get back to where we changed the new constitutional order. By the time the 2007, we have what we call a reader of opposition. And the official leader of opposition was outright opposition, which was to be taken by the one who lost. And it was abolished by the new constitution. Therefore, we can abolish the new system in the parliament of minority and majority and create back that particular position.
I'm coming to you, Honorable Ashanti. Okay, Honorable Atandi, let's get your view. You seem to want to.
I want to ask my colleague, which one is better? A rotational presidency between Kalenjins and Kikuyus, and a situation where now we have other Kenyans brought on board. Which one do you like? Because we are now having a situation where Kikuyu leaves, Kalenjin takes over, like that. And then we have a situation where we are now going to create at least 5 positions for many other tribes to come on the table. Which one do you want?
Okay, we are running out of time, so Mr. Njuguna, as we wind up. Sorry, Honorable Gakuya, we're running out of time. Honorable Gakuya. I'd like them to give their closing remarks on Mr. Njuguna. Yes, briefly.
The unity of tribes is conceived, but the Constitution under Article 27 offers equity and equality. Article 43 of the Constitution offers economic and social rights. The new bill under item 50 amends item 2006, 2007, includes equity and equality in terms of uplifting others inclusivity with diversity. Okay. Because we are very many tribes, but we are still, how shall we include ourselves? Through sharing of resources. And the bill provides us for equal sharing of resources. The members of parliament should be craving to ensure every single person in Kenya have got economic and social rights, while tribally, they feel they are part of that process.
Okay. Honorable Atandi.
Yeah. Trixie, yesterday there was a funeral in Kisii where the late Cabinet Secretary Nyachai was buried, and there was no politics. And I think I want to thank the President and the entire leadership that was there, that I think as we approach elections and campaigns, let all leaders avoid politics in funerals. I think funerals need to be just for the sake of sending off and paying and respecting the family. And I think this is something that I want to urge all my colleagues in Parliament and outside Parliament, that going forward, let us go with the trend that was set yesterday, where leaders do not politic in funerals. Because this idea of politicking in funeral is becoming very serious, that even leaders cannot even meet. Even when leaders meet, you look at their body language, they cannot be able to bond properly. So I think this is something that we need to respect. And secondly, Kenyans are faced with two scenarios. One, to determine their future through a comprehensive constitutional reform that will ensure that everybody partake of their rights in the Constitution.
Yes.
And then there's the other angle where somebody wants to tell us that, we can use his own resources to empower Kenyans, that he can buy millions of wheelbarrows and give to Kenyans youth so that they become self-reliant. I think we have a bigger choice to make.
Okay.
And I want to urge Kenyans to buy BBI because BBI is the future.
Okay. Now, on that note, we're going to close that very hot debate and attempt at predicting where the country is headed. Thank you very much, Mr. Njuguna. Thank you. You have given us a mouthful about what you think about the country's direction, but now we have to close it. On the other side of this break, Jesse Rogers had a conversation with Uhuru Kenyatta, who's the senator from Murang'a County and the former senator majority chief whip. No better person for that segment called Person of Interest. Stay tuned for that and see what we have in store for you on the other side. Thank you very much to our guests for being with us for this debate.
Thank you.